The condescending gift, the grand hall of New Geneva Station buzzed with nervous energy as humanity prepared for its most important moment in history. Captain Elena Vasquez adjusted her dress uniform one final time, her weathered hands steady despite the magnitude of what was about to unfold. After 3 years of careful negotiations, the Corvani Empire had finally agreed to formal first contact with humanity. Dr. Marcus Chon stood beside her, his tablet displaying readouts from the most advanced scanning equipment Earth could produce. The physicist had spent months analyzing every scrap of data about their visitors, but nothing could have prepared him for seeing them in person. The Corvani were impressive beings, standing nearly 8 feet tall with crystalline skin that seemed to shift between deep blue and silver. Their technology was so advanced, it appeared almost magical to human observers. Ambassador Thexfar glided forward on what appeared to be controlled gravity fields, his voice carrying the musical quality that all Corvani possessed. When he spoke, his words were translated by technology so sophisticated that it conveyed not just meaning, but emotional undertones. Unfortunately, those undertones carried a distinct air of superiority. "Greetings, young humans," Thexfar began, his tone suggesting he was addressing particularly clever children. "The Corvani Empire recognizes your species as having achieved basic spaceflight capabilities. This is commendable for a single-planet civilization." Elena felt her jaw tighten at the condescension, but maintained her diplomatic composure. Humanity had worked too hard for this moment to let pride derail it. "We are honored by your recognition, Ambassador. Earth stands ready to learn from your great civilization." What followed was a ceremony that felt more like a school graduation than a meeting between equals. The Corvani presented various gifts to humanity, each accompanied by explanations that made them sound like training wheels for cosmic toddlers. Medical scanners that could diagnose simple ailments, communication devices for basic interstellar contact, and agricultural enhancers for primitive farming methods. Then came the weapons. General Zarakith, the Corvani military commander, approached carrying what appeared to be an elegant silver staff. The device was beautiful in its simplicity, roughly 4 feet long with smooth curves, and a subtle glow emanating from crystalline nodes along its length. "These are energy dampeners," she announced with the same tone one might use to describe a training sword, suitable for species still learning the basics of energy manipulation. Dr. Chun leaned forward, his scientific curiosity overriding diplomatic protocol. "What exactly do they do?" Zarakith's expression suggested mild surprise that the humans would need such basic concepts explained. "They emit controlled energy pulses designed to temporarily disrupt simple electronic systems and cause minor disorientation in most carbon-based life forms. Perfect for crowd control or dealing with minor threats that young civilizations typically encounter." She handed the device to Elena, who was surprised by its lightness. Despite its impressive appearance, the weapon felt almost insubstantial in her hands. The power output is carefully regulated to prevent any serious harm. "We find that developing species often lack the wisdom to handle more potent weapons responsibly." Lieutenant Jake Morrison, one of Earth's most decorated soldiers, watched the demonstration with barely concealed frustration. He had led humanity's defense against the Centauri pirates just 2 years ago, using weapons that made these gifts look like toys. The idea that these aliens considered humans too primitive for real weapons was insulting, but orders were orders. The ceremony continued with more presentations and diplomatic speeches, but Elena's attention kept returning to the energy dampener in her hands. Something about the Corvani's dismissive attitude bothered her beyond simple wounded pride. In her experience, when someone insisted something was harmless, it usually meant they didn't understand it properly themselves. Professor Lisa Park, Earth's leading expert in exotic physics, was thinking along similar lines. She had been studying the readings from her concealed scanners, and the energy signatures coming from these simple weapons were anything but basic. The quantum field fluctuations alone suggested technology that was centuries beyond current. Human understanding. As the formal ceremony concluded, Vex Ver made one final pronouncement that would prove prophetic. These gifts should serve humanity well in your designated role within the galactic community. The Corvani Empire has surveyed several worlds that require basic security services. Simple patrol duties, minor peacekeeping operations, nothing that should challenge these weapons' capabilities. 3 weeks later, everything changed. The emergency alert reached New Geneva Station at 0347 hours, transmitted by the automated beacon of Kepler Colony 7. The message was brief but terrifying. Under attack by unknown hostiles. Conventional weapons ineffective. Requesting immediate assistance. Elena stared at the tactical display showing Kepler 7's location, a mining colony on the edge of human space with a population of 12,000 civilians. The nearest Earth Defense Force fleet was 4 days away, but a small patrol ship, equipped with the Corvani weapons, could reach the colony in 18 hours. "It's a suicide mission," Morrison stated bluntly. "We've tested those energy dampeners against everything from battle armor to starship hulls. They're about as effective as harsh language." Chun nodded grimly. "The power output barely registers on our instruments. Against unknown hostiles with technology advanced enough to neutralize our conventional weapons, these things will be useless." But Elena was already making the decision that would change humanity's future. "We go anyway. 12,000 people are counting on us, and these weapons are all we have." She looked around the room at her team. Besides, the Corvani seemed pretty confident in their effectiveness. Maybe we're missing something. The journey to Kepler 7 gave them time to study the weapons more thoroughly. Park worked tirelessly with Chun, running every test they could think of while Morrison and his Marines practiced with the devices. The results were consistently disappointing. The energy dampeners could barely power down a standard tablet computer and caused nothing more than mild dizziness in human test subjects. As they approached Kepler 7, the situation became clear through their ship's sensors. The colony was under siege by a species none of them recognized: tall, insectoid beings with advanced exoskeletons and weapons that fired some kind of plasma energy. The colonists had barricaded themselves in the mining tunnels, but it was only a matter of time before the attackers broke through. Elena watched 3 of the alien attack craft patrol the colony's perimeter, their shields easily deflecting the high automated defense systems that should have been able to stop a small army. "How many Marines do we have, Morrison?" 22, including myself. All armed with energy dampeners that couldn't stop a determined housecat. Then we better get creative. Elena turned to Chun and Park. "I want you two to monitor everything these weapons do during the battle. Every energy reading, every quantum fluctuation, every effect we can measure. If we're going to die using these things, at least we'll learn something useful." The assault shuttle descended through Kepler 7's atmosphere under stealth systems. But Elena knew they would be detected the moment they opened fire. The plan was simple because it had to be: get close to the attackers, use the weapons as designed, and hope for a miracle. Morrison positioned his Marines around the colony's main complex, while Elena took point with her energy dampener. Alien soldiers were approximately 10 feet tall, their carapached bodies gleaming with what appeared to be advanced bioarmor. Energy weapons that could punch through starship hulls hung from their arms like natural appendages. Elena aimed her weapon at the nearest hostile and activated it. The energy dampener hummed softly and emitted a pale blue pulse that struck the alien center mass. For a moment, nothing seemed to happen. The creature continued its advance, apparently unaffected by what the Corvani had assured them was ineffective. Weapon Then something extraordinary occurred. The alien suddenly stopped moving, its weapons powering down as if they had run out of energy. But more than that, the creature itself seemed to be losing coordination, stumbling as if its nervous system was failing. Within seconds, it collapsed completely. Not dead, but somehow completely incapacitated. Morrison, witnessing this from his position 50 meters away, immediately targeted another alien. The same thing happened. A brief delay followed by complete system failure. But this time, he noticed something else. The alien's bioarmor, which had been glowing with internal energy, went completely dark. Whatever the energy dampener was doing, it wasn't just affecting electronics. Across the battlefield, similar scenes played out as the Marines engaged the hostiles. Each alien struck by the weapons suffered complete incapacitation, their advanced technology failing in ways that defied explanation. Within 30 minutes, an invasion force that had seemed unstoppable was reduced to helpless figures lying motionless on the ground. Chun watched his instruments in amazement as the readings poured in. The energy dampeners weren't just disrupting simple electronics, as the Corvani had claimed. They were somehow interfering with the quantum field interactions that allowed advanced biological and technological systems to function. The weapons were targeting the very energy patterns that held complex matter configurations together. Park's analysis went even deeper, revealing that the devices were manipulating something called quantum coherence fields, theoretical constructs that human science had only recently begun to understand. The aliens' technology, both biological and mechanical, relied on these same field interactions to function. The energy dampeners weren't weak weapons at all. They were incredibly sophisticated tools designed to disrupt the most advanced technology. In the Galaxy Dot, as Elena surveyed the battlefield where an impossible victory had just taken place, one thought dominated her mind. The Corvani had given humanity weapons that could neutralize the most advanced species in known space. Then told them these devices were suitable only for minor threats. Either the Corvani had made the biggest mistake in galactic history, or humanity was about to learn something very important about their place in the universe. Asterisk Human Ingenuity Unleashed. Debriefing session back on New Geneva Station felt more like a scientific revolution than a military report. Elena stood before a packed auditorium filled with Earth's finest minds, all struggling to comprehend what had happened at Kepler-7. The energy readings from the battle had been transmitted across human space, causing excitement and confusion. In equal measure, Dr. Chun stepped forward with his preliminary analysis, his usual composed demeanor replaced by barely contained enthusiasm. What we witnessed wasn't weapon failure, it was weapon evolution. The energy dampeners didn't work despite being weak. It worked because they're incredibly sophisticated. Professor Park activated a holographic display showing the quantum field patterns recorded during the battle. The Corvani told us these devices disrupt simple electronics, but that's like saying a surgeon's scalpel is good for cutting paper. These weapons manipulate quantum coherence fields at the subatomic level. Morrison raised his hand from the audience. So why did the Corvani think they were weak? Elena had been pondering that same question for weeks. Because they designed them to be weak against Corvani technology. Look at the readings from our tests. The weapons barely affected human electronics or biology. They're specifically calibrated to avoid harming the species that created them. The implications hit the room like a physical force. The Corvani hadn't given humanity training weapons. They had given them prototype devices so dangerous that the creators had built in safeguards to protect themselves. The energy dampeners were actually quantum field disruptors, capable of neutralizing any technology or biology that relied on advanced field interactions. Chun continued his presentation with growing excitement. The aliens at Kepler-7 used bio-integrated technology that depends entirely on quantum field coherence. Their nervous systems, their armor, their weapons. Everything operated on principles that these devices could disrupt. From their perspective, our weapons would seem like magic. Dr. Sarah Kim, Earth's leading expert in xenobiology, stood up with a concerned expression. If these weapons can disrupt quantum field interactions, what else can they affect? We might be holding devices that could destabilize matter itself. Park nodded grimly. That's exactly what we're holding. In the wrong hands or with the wrong modifications, these weapons could theoretically disrupt the quantum fields that hold atoms together. They're not just weapons of mass destruction. They're weapons of reality destruction. The room fell silent as the full magnitude of the situation became clear. The Corvani had handed humanity technology that could theoretically unmake matter at the fundamental level, then told them it was suitable for crowd control. Either it was the most spectacular example of technological ignorance in galactic history, or something else was going on. Elena stepped forward with a new theory that had been forming in her mind. What if the Corvani knew exactly what they were giving us? What if this was a test? Morrison frowned. A test of what? A test of whether humanity deserves to survive contact with advanced civilizations. Think about it. They give us weapons. That could destroy planets and tell us they're harmless training tools. Then they wait to see what we do? The theory gained support as Chon added his own observations. It would explain their behavior during first contact. They weren't just condescending. They were studying our reactions. Every dismissive comment, every explanation of how simple the weapons were, they were establishing baseline expectations. Over the following months, humanity threw itself into understanding the quantum field disruptors with characteristic determination. Teams of scientists worked around the clock to map every function, every safety feature, every potential application of the technology. What they discovered changed everything. The weapons had multiple operating modes that the Corvani had never mentioned. Morrison's team discovered that by linking multiple devices together, they could create field effects covering entire star systems. Park's research revealed that the devices could be reconfigured to enhance quantum coherence rather than disrupt it, potentially revolutionizing human technology. But the most important discovery came from an unexpected source. Lieutenant Morrison, frustrated by the limited range of the individual weapons, had begun experimenting with creative applications. He found that by using the devices to disrupt the quantum fields around metallic objects, he could create temporary gravitational anomalies. Rocks became projectiles that could punch through starship armor. Water became a cutting tool, sharper than any blade. Elena watched Morrison demonstrate his techniques during a training exercise, using an energy dampener to turn a handful of sand into a precision cutting beam. Jake, do you realize what you've done? You've turned a defensive weapon into an offensive tool using nothing but human creativity. The breakthrough came when Park realized that humans approach the technology differently than any other species would. The Corvani had designed the weapons based on their own understanding of quantum mechanics, which was highly advanced but also highly rigid. Humans, with their more primitive but flexible understanding, were finding applications that the creators had never considered. Chun summarized it perfectly during one of their research sessions. The Corvani think in terms of what technology should do. Humans think in terms of what technology could do. They gave us sophisticated tools and told us they were simple. We believed them and started using them simply. But simple doesn't mean limited. The real test came when a Corvani survey ship arrived at Earth 6 months after the Kepler-7 incident. Ambassador Thexver requested a meeting with Elena, his usual condescension replaced by what appeared to be genuine curiosity. Captain Vasquez, we have received some interesting reports about your species' use of the energy dampeners. Our monitoring stations detected quantum field fluctuations consistent with applications we had not anticipated. Elena smiled. remembering the frustration she had felt during their first meeting. "The weapons worked exactly as you said they would, Ambassador. We simply found some creative ways to use them." Vexver's crystalline features shifted in what Elena had learned was the Corvani equivalent of surprise. "Perhaps you could demonstrate these applications?" What followed was a presentation that reversed the roles from their first encounter. Elena and her team demonstrated applications that left the advanced aliens stunned. Morrison showed how multiple dampeners could create localized gravity wells. Park revealed how the devices could enhance human technology by stabilizing quantum fields in computer systems. Chun explained how they had learned to use the weapons to manipulate time dilation fields, making human ships effectively faster than light without traditional propulsion. But the demonstration that truly shocked the Corvani came when Elena activated a modified dampener array that surrounded the meeting room with a stable quantum field. Suddenly, the primitive human technology in the room began operating at levels that rivaled Corvani equipment. Their basic computers processed information at quantum speeds. Their simple communication devices reached across the galaxy instantly. Vexvar stared at the transformed technology with something approaching awe. This should not be possible. The energy dampeners were designed with specific limitations to prevent exactly this kind of application. Elena's smile widened. "You designed them to work within Corvani understanding of quantum mechanics. But human understanding is different. We don't think in terms of limitations. We think in terms of possibilities." The revelation that followed changed the balance of galactic power forever. The Corvani had indeed been testing humanity, but not in the way Elena had originally theorized. They had given humans the most advanced weapons in their arsenal, while telling them they were simple tools, expecting that a primitive species would use them primitively. Instead, humanity had demonstrated an approach to advanced technology that exceeded even Corvani capabilities. General Zarakith, who had been observing the demonstrations with growing amazement, made the announcement that formalized humanity's new status. The Corvani Empire formally recognizes humanity as an advanced technological species and extends an invitation to full membership in the Galactic Council. But Elena had learned something important about dealing with advanced civilizations. "We appreciate the recognition, General, but we'll need to discuss terms as equals. After all, we have weapons that your most advanced species can't defend against, and we've only begun to explore their potential." The negotiation that followed established humanity not as junior partners in galactic civilization, but as innovative leaders whose unique approach to technology brought new possibilities to ancient problems. The energy dampeners became the foundation for a technological revolution that benefited every species in known space. Years later, Elena would look back on that first encounter with the Corvani and marvel at how a single moment of condescension had changed the course of human history. The aliens had tried to give humanity toys, believing that primitive species deserved primitive tools. Instead, they had handed humans the keys to quantum manipulation and learned that sometimes the most advanced technology requires the most creative thinking. The lesson echoed across the galaxy. Never underestimate a species willing to see possibilities where others see only limitations. Humanity had taken weapons designed for crowd control and turned them into tools of cosmic transformation, proving that innovation, not just intelligence, determines a civilization's true potential. In the end, the Corvani's biggest mistake wasn't underestimating human technology. It was underestimating human imagination.